is light shine on the tissue that on top of the focal plane, right? And there is light going to reach down. Why is that? Um, well, there is no way to project it at this stage. So this is the object. And normally the light we're considering over here is Gaussian beam. And for Gaussian beam, we'll just use triangles. So it would look like something like this. So light will get focused over here, but they will still go through the tissue and penetrate and shine on the tissue that on top or on bottom. This is the focal plane, okay? This is before reaching the focal plane. After. So there would be light here and there would be light. And light that reaches here would be able to go back. And light that reaches here would be able to go back. They're just not on focus. Okay, it would excite the fluorophores at that location. It's just a signal that will not be focused. And that would be the noise. Because they're not focused, they're going to be blurry, and that's where the noise comes from, not the signal. They are signals, but for us, the signal only comes from the focal plane. The effective signal only comes from this plane, and everything that comes from the upper planes and lower planes would be noise and would give us a bad image. Okay, so normally, if we don't have confocal microscopy, we can't image thick tissue because the effect or the influence is so strong so that we will not be able to acquire information that we want. We can only look at very small. Okay, so now we want to look at thick. So, well, okay, so that's where we're at the focal point. So the lights would go back and directly, if we don't have this confocal pinhole, they would all reach our detector and obscure our. And now we just simply put a pinhole in our detection. Let's see what the pinhole does. So for the green color over here, the light is focused, and when it comes back through the objective to its index infinity directed, so the light comes from the focal plane will be imaged in infinity space. In other words, they would be collimated again. Okay? When they come back, the green color. When they come back, it would be collimated, would be parallel beam, and reaches the dichroic beam splitter. And for the emission light, we set up the dichroic beam splitter to let it all pass through. Okay? They would pass through the dichroic mirror and reach our. Okay, when the normal light, like the when the green color over here reaches the beam splitter and now it turns to a yellow color, it's still collimated. It's parallel beam, and this is a tube lens. When it reaches the tube lens, it will be focused. Where the focus is, as we look at the yellow color, focus is at the pin. And then after it reaches here, then we can use our detector to detect, and this will be the place before the intermediate plane. Okay, at the pinhole, at right here. And because the beam is parallel, the beam here is parallel and it focuses at the focal plane, and we have a small pinhole right here. Actually, the light would be able to go through because when it's focused, it's like out. The Gaussian beam is not going to be a plane, but for a Gaussian beam, it's quite thick. We can set up the pinhole to be an appropriate size to let the focus light pass. Okay. So if we don't have the pinhole, all the light will reach that plane. For example, if we look at the red dashed line here, well, light from the red dashed line is below the focal plane, and then when it reaches the objective, it's not going to be imaged to the infinity space. It's not going to be parallel, so it's a little bit like this, the red dotted line. than the yellow color. And at the focal plane or the confocal plane, and the focal plane it will be expanded, so it will be a wide blurry space. Okay, and for the blue dashed line, that's indicating the after like about the focal plane, so it will be more diverse than the yellow plain yellow color. So when it's diverse and get imaged by the tube length, it will not reach a focus at the focal plane. On the contrary, the image after, so that focal point would be after the focal plane. And at the focal plane, it's still a wide, uh, like a wide area, blurry area. But if we don't have anything at the focal plane, then all of those blurry lights will be added on top of the focal plane with the focus light and make the image look obscure. But right now, what we set up over here is a confocal pinhole. A pinhole only lets a very small amount of area to go past, but that doesn't indicate a very small amount of light. For the focal plane, it can let almost all of light to pass. However, for the non-focused light, if we have like a big chunk of light over there, right, it only lets through a very small portion of it. So using a simple, very simple structure, we can remove a lot of those out of focus light, right? And when we let a lot of in focus light go through, it removes a lot of those out of focus light. And this will give us much better, right? So it's a very smart idea with a very simple step. Well, although the thought is simple, the difficulty comes into how to align the system very well to make sure that our infocus light will all go through and those out of those lights be rejected to the maximum. And also, it is a question to decide the like how large the pinhole. The smaller the pinhole is, the better effect will be on removing the out of both light. But then it will be much harder to align it to let the info light go past. If we have a larger pinhole, then it's much easier to design, and then our effect will not be very well on rejecting the output. So it is something that you should consider on how large the pinhole. Okay. Well, other than this, everything else is very similar to fluorescent method. Like we need to have those that we need to have an excitation filter, an emission filter, and we have to diagnose the area. And the texture, over here, the texture actually we don't have to use that much. We can use a very yeah, it's the most single point detection, and that is and well, this way we actually think about this because we use laser sight and then it goes out one point. The signal point is selected and now we only image one. What would we want to acquire an image of an area, area or even a three-dimensional ball? So how do we achieve that? Well, we can achieve that using skin. We can either scan the light or we can scan the thing. So we can move it around, for example, and we move it on the X direction and keep image keep doing imaging on that direction. Doing imaging, we can acquire a line on the X direction, and then we also move on the Y direction, and also we can move on Z direction to image at a different. Okay, so we move in switching to.
But you have a limitation for that because if you move the focal plane too much, then those green and red lights are going to focus on the pinhole that we have.
Um,
I mean, those green and blue lights, they are not going to focus through that. But if we move the focal plane, then they will get through the.
but if we move the sample, okay, if we move the sample, the focal plane will be changed, and that's what we want. You know, if we move it down, then like if we move the like if we say that this sample is about 100 microns, 100 nanometers, okay, microns per today. For example, it's 100 nanometers, and if we move 50 nanometers, then we're actually imaging a different plane,
Yeah,
and actually that's what we want.
what will happen to the red and the blue lights that we don't want them to pass it?
But they're still not going to because they're not in focus. The okay, think about it this way. So the beams will be static, and we're moving the sample, right? So the red light is going to be the red dashed line will be at a different distance. So the focal plane here is what we image. But when we move the sample, this focal plane will, for example, this focal plane will move to this red dot. And at that point, we're not imaging at this plane anymore. That light from that plane will be noise. We don't want that. We only want anything that's on our plane. And if we keep imaging many planes as our focal plane, we would get a 3D section every time, right? We move the sample two-dimensional, two or three-dimensional way, and we require four so we actually call this kind of imaging as that if this modality has optical sectioning, and it's provided by the thing. Let me explain what is optical sectioning. So sectioning means we try to cut the sample into slices. So physical sectioning means that we cut the sample physically to very thin pieces and get the image, right? So with normal conventional microscopy, we cannot image a sample as this because everything will be illuminated and all the light will be back and will not be able to get a very good image. So what we do is we cut the samples to make them very thin and to do it with physical sectioning. And this way we only get the image from this one plane because then we only have this one and we can image it. So this is a traditional way of imaging the tissues, physical. But over here, laser scanning focal microscopy provides the ability of optical section. We use light, we use light method to create sections only image a specific plane or a so I draw this way. Actually, there are many stops in very simple diagram. So first, blue light in, uh, green light out means we're using fluorescent. Shorter wavelength light goes in along the wavelength. This indicates fluorescence. That happens in all fluorescent. They're always red shift on the longer wavelength direction. Why is that? So blue light in, green light out, or green light in, yellow light out, or yellow light in, red light out.
Oh,
Why is it shifting always to that direction? Longer
because
because with some of the energy, and we're going to the lower photon. However, look at the dots over here. This indicates that we're imaging one dot at a point. Okay, this indicates we're illuminating the whole area image of one area. So this indicates we image data, and this indicates the little very thin triangles here indicate laser excitation, uh, laser excitation and emission. And also I specify that in order to acquire an image. Okay. So this is laser scanning focal microscopy. It has optical vector ability, and which is provided by, as we can see over here, it indicates the effect or influence on the, call it, the focal site. This is a small, as we can see over here, the pinhole aperture site. This this one is small, this one is medium, and this one is large. As we can see over here in comparison between a wide field and a focal image. As we can see that this gives a much better in focus image if we have a very small. And if the pinhole size goes larger and larger, we can see that the focal effect is going to decrease with the pinhole size increase. Once the pinhole size is quite large, then going to the white. This shows the example of how the pinhole helps to reject the out of focus light to reduce the altitude, reduce the light altitude of the image and give us image with better resolution. And this just shows the example of how scanning could help us achieve and these are also examples showing wide field images this is the thing. The top row is the wide field. So it's actually quite similar. All of these will show kind of blurry on the things that we're looking at. It makes it look quite not blurry. And this is an example of 3D goes through the structure of that of course, we can put them back and show this is show cross section. These well renders of focal optical section. This one, this I actually come from this website. It's pretty good example. This one looks like this. A three-dimensional rendering. And the top left oh, okay. So this telescope the focal light. Michael also they show the base and cherry. There are different labels for each side. Okay, next let's introduce another technique of multifocal in a lot of imaging lectures, including the ones that I had previously, they are always together for a comparison. So what we had just talked about is called confocal microscopy, and this is what multifocal microscopy also has the ability of based on a whole different uh, theory. Um, and actually, we have to start from the very beginning of how the photon gets absorbed and excited. And um, normally, everything we have talked about previously is called single photon excitation. So the fluorescence imaging we talked about single photon excitation. That means there is a higher energy photon, one is in K, violet to blue. Okay, a higher energy photon gets absorbed by the fluorophore, and then there's of course some energy loss over there, and a photon of a lower energy and a longer wavelength gets emitted. Right? We accept this. We have seen this. So ultraviolet excitation is blue emission, very normal. What is photon excitation? That means, okay, we have a photon of quite low energy, which is a red photon. It has a wavelength of about 700 nanometers. It's already infrared. However, the energy of two photons adds up together. And when they add up, they can reach the energy of the ultraviolet photon. And once I have enough energy with photons, we can excite the fluorophore to the excited state and then generate an emission of
Weather alert.
fluorescence.
Today's rain contains
So
hazardous
basically,
materials. Do
before
not use a
this,
black umbrella
we have
while
said that
outside.
the fluorophore or anything can
Attention,
only
citizens.
absorb
If a stranger
the
asks you for
energy,
time,
the
do
amount of
not
energy
respond
that
to
you
them
want.
under
We
any
don't just
circumstances.
absorb random energy, right? I give you a piece of cookie, okay? I give you one cookie, and that's what you want. I give you a much bigger cookie, that's what you want. But usually you don't accept two small cookies as your food, okay? That's not what normally happens. However, this does exist. Like at special conditions, you can accept two cookies. And okay, I give you both. I can accept so at what condition will this situation happen? Well, that's the question. Okay. And also, that's not the only situation. There could be a situation that the energy of three photons gets absorbed and inside of a fluorescent. So this shows an example of three photon excitation, red photon excitation, green one photon excitation, much higher ultraviolet, right? And if and emission ultraviolet. Okay, so in what kind of situation would this
I never thought
okay?
I'd see
That
another
said,
person I
my
totally.
multi-photon microscopy achieves double sectioning without a pinhole. That's another interesting thing. Previously, it was said, okay, focal is good, and there is parts the pinhole to help us reduce out of focal plane. But multi-photon does not need excitation in multi-photon microscopy occurs only at the focal plane. Interesting. It will not be the pinhole because in this method, in this imaging modality, there's only the focal plane will be excited. If only the focal plane would be excited, nowhere else would be excited, then we only acquire the signal from the focal plane. We of course don't. And why is that? That's because for multi-photon phenomenon to be active for this we would need a a very high flux of photons density. We need a large amount of photons at that time to be able to activate photons. So normally, no photon will happen only at very special conditions. Happens that going to be referred as focus. But not any focus is in focus. Only when you false lasers, usually femtosecond lasers, have very high efficiency and at the focus, we will be able to
This familiar
get the
feeling.
multi-photon effect.
Is it you?
If only so many people stay in a closed apartment, we get more focus.
So only when this happens, okay? Or when we say only when we have so many cookies, okay? We have too many cookies.
Please,
You would be able to
touch the
get,
world stone.
okay? That's what we want. We have so many, thousands
Thank you for awakening the world stone.
So how to achieve this
You
is
don't
first
look like
you have to
you're
use
from
this
this
focus.
world.
Second, not all the focus will be able to give a moment.
There's something
It's
about you that's
only when they
strange,
use
yet comforting.
special techniques which have really, really high and even that they
Sorry, you
the
remind
amount
me so much of
the amount of photon
a friend
excitation
of mine.
is not
My name
super
is
long.
Mitsuko.
Okay, so we would say
I
that
still remember
very
that,
small
at least.
chance
I was once the creator and guardian of Eternal Land.
so even small chance for
But since Manibus invaded, my power and
photon
memories
excitation
have been sealed.
more
I can hardly remember anything except my own name.
so we would call it
As for why you came here, I believe Manibus created a rift in space-time and pulled you in.
using the image so right here is the 4480 nanometer expectation and this
About that,
chamber is filled
sorry.
with fluorescent solution as we
Due to Manibus'
excite
corrupting
the
influence,
for
I've lost nearly all my power.
that all of these
I would like to send you home,
okay, and
but
the
right now,
light code
I
follows
simply cannot.
general Gaussian shape. And right here, between you, the 960 nanometer femtosecond laser to shine on
My power and memories
that
are
only
sealed
this
within
one
the world stones scattered throughout this land.
get excited, get light out.
If you awaken the
That
world
is
stones,
only
I
at that
gradually
point.
recover my power and
All
memories.
that happens. And this is the
But Eternal Land has become highly dangerous. Even so, you will still help me.
not help very long. I can only have a very small chance. And this chance can be
In
made
that case,
by
please head to the nearest world stone.
This is how
My power is weak, but I will do everything I can in my own way to assist you.
There's high photon density, and those are necessary to ensure a sufficient level of the sound photon for radiation, and photon concentration must be approximately 1,000,000 times that.
It's too dark. If we want to set up camp, we should restart the generator inside the hut.
So there is nearly
Be
a
careful.
zero
I
probability
sense
that
danger.
strong words outside of the lake because photon is not magnetic. So think this way, we can actually as you can see, the difference between the photon and photon would be first we use different lasers. This one we use a blue laser and doesn't have to be blue light laser for that six. So it has can be alone. And in two photon excitation we have like a double wavelength, roughly double wavelength, like a half laser. But that has to be that's the same thing. I go up with but I would say that it does mean that this place is extremely dangerous because the average density is just like a pulse place and the pulse is really high, but the average density. But we still, of course, we still want to make sure we don't look into any lake uh, even they don't have very high power. Okay, so in blue light is like specific light, we use red light is like light, and only the places in focus will be able to generate the multi-photon excitation, and therefore the emission is going also going to be only at the plane, and we will be able to get this from that. And also over here we don't. I still specifically remember that in my class, that comes to 2010 years ago, my professor in class when we talked about proposal versus simple count, specifically asked the question, why don't we need a simple? I don't remember. I don't know why I specifically remember talking about this, but he did. Okay. So also it even is 1 point at a time, so it needs to be use it needs to use scanning method as you and also it needs because it's uses single mode and also it needs to use that and remember the detection is going to be roughly half the way. We use a lower we use a longer wavelength laser sight or we the emission the emission is going to be half the roughly half a little bit longer than half. Okay, with kind of diagram show the difference again. So for laser to get local spectroscopy, we know that we want to look at the emission. So it's the same for photon. The difference is that we can look at the laser that we have the different wavelengths and the emission is the same. Add up. And so with red light side, I can yes, also yes.
Deviation.
Well,
It's
so you
probably
really
where the
cannot
deviant got
show
his
the
power.
technical differences here, but actually all the other information to realize that this is it. And this is any research uses people on the process here. And also another interesting thing is the photon on microscopy can help with the first issue. That's
My
because
memories
the
are
light
unclear,
source
but
species
deviations are the products of
infrared
the
or
world's
red,
collapse.
usually in those ranges, and
If you secure
those
them, their power will be yours
wavelengths
to wield.
able to penetrate the tissue deeper depth than range. So a lot of times it gets
You've awakened the
escape
Worldstone.
the neurons, and especially there's
Now
there
I
are a
think I
lot
can
of
sense
studies
indications of the
to
remaining ones.
follow the animal without sacrificing them and studying the brain activity. So in some research that may be able to find some literature that is update brain the mouse and they put an objective here to look at the brain activity when it's still active, and those are probably a lot of those people spectrum. Another good thing, well, these it was not first. Now higher temperature. This is the post pulse laser. So the skin. So well, it scans in a different scale. So it scans in a small scale to give the images, and then it uses big block to try to form a very long shape. This is largely just a brain. And of course, this is not this is not live in
You should be able to use Sapalander's power now.
very big plane, and they have
Then,
like
I'll do my best to locate the next world stone.
translate two Ds in like but what they use actually here is a clearing. Clearing means we take the brain of the mouse and it's opaque. It's not transparent. Clearing technique means that you use some chemical method to make the brain transparent, but without sacrificing structure. We can still stain the brain, but because it's transparent, optical or very big. Well, not as big as mouse. They still cut the brain because it's too good. Also, the three-dimensional imaging ability for these techniques are quite complex, but for printed probably definitely one of the that. Oh, because maybe different kinds of color. Let's look at anything that uses full color full color, which is very not. Next step is to down my we have with a break. Time slot that you want to take them on whatnot.
Yeah.
So, guys are eating with my you don't write down talking if you want to, okay? That's something that's just make it kind of
Don't touch my food. You will get it. अरे फट जाएगी. अरे फट जाएगी थोड़ी. फट जाएगी तो हम होगा ना. नहीं हुआ. We didn't get no food. I'm confused.
well, some people want to do it's like you're still a nursing.
Yeah.
15 becomes 2.5 months.
Six of them. That is your problem. This is for you. This is, then I'll give it to someone else. Okay.
How will you make it safe?
And I could.
Side that thing.
What part of it?
Rakibul.
So all for that.
Oh, yeah, main group is the same.
That means
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have 12. Alright.
Yeah.
And then have
There are 5 more. 5 or 6 more missing.
Fine.
That's so, I feel like we only have six.
Oh, no. We have 30 students.
But everyone here has
Yeah.
gone.
Yes.
No,
Right.
only three.
Prince is written.
Hmm?
Someone wrote Prince.
हो गया फिर ये
It's not it.
and sorry then. Yeah. 3 people are not here.
Yeah, Apollo.
So you have. Yeah, that's it. What is this? This is not, this is the, right?
Yeah, man. What you do?
I just started.
What is this? There's no. Name. Right, they traveled down to 29. There's the 29.
Five.
Okay, wait a second.
Five present five.
Big crowd?
Yeah.
How many? So, many buildings. Big crowd. First was big crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. You want, which day do you want? to
Fifth.
sit on?
Fifth.
June the 5th, right?
Yeah.
You wrote down 29th, right?
Yeah, actually, we couldn't able to decide the topic. So.
Well, if you're
Why? Why? Do it with Krishna. Do it with Krishna. You can do it in 20 minutes. One week. Why do you? I was then. You want not to spending 2 weeks. You are doing one day on ChatGPT. So how do you get?
You take a box.
I don't care about box.
You need guns to kill that monster. You can't kill it.
The baseball bat.
No, I'm not looking. I tried it like.
No.
Carry next. Did I withdraw?
Okay, thank you.
Now, which place?
Yeah, yeah. Unexpected also. But the Alaphabetic underground. Near the lake, it's up. What type of capture? Something that you can't really realize that. Computer, that's like. No, not that. No.
The buildings here have been utterly distorted by Metabus. Since you awakened our Wilson, I felt my powers and memories returning slowly.
Okay, they found it. That's what you're. I have to. Okay. Okay.
What difficulty are you playing?
I don't know. There is no option to choose difficulty. It's a
No, you
tutorial.
can't.
It's a
No.
tutorial.
I was getting one-shotted by him.
Maybe you're blind or something. Yeah, I'm not provide. This is humanity. But I not a and I'm watching.
can. My powers and memories are gradually returning. To thank you for what you've done for me and Eternal End. I should send you back to, but I saw it. The path back to your world. To send you home. But with my lip, I'm sorry. Manabus is a powerful fool. But you are someone who can make
What
the
happened?
impossible happen.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Are you truly willing to help
Why?
me secure Manabus? Thank you. No matter what happens, I will do everything in my power to protect you.
Tomorrow morning, on in your place. Nice. Badminton. Morning. 7.
Why became 7 o'clock?
Oh, we can open up. So tell me, there is slot 9 to 10, 10 to 11. 9 to 11. 9 to? No, 9 to 10, 10 to 11.
9 to 11. 2 hours.
To watch not possible.
Why? They are the friend.
He who half and not friend who.
So you're telling that she has only 2 friends.
So you takes the band for book.
Yeah, book me.
Tell me now.
At 9.
9 to 10.
Okay.
Early for you.
Wait, you asked me. Now, even if I'm telling you, you're telling the time that you want. So,
Okay. Aman,
yeah.
when you want to play
For what play?
badminton?
Yeah, anytime. 6 hours.
Because tell me 9 to 10 or 10 to 11.
6, so I think 9 to 10. No, do 10 to 11 because then we can go for lunches. Okay, 10 to 11. 10 to 11 is very good. No,
If you're ready, let us face Manabus together. That's the bus you were on before. It must be stuck here too. But don't worry, I have enough power to make it useful. What was your life like before? When all this is over, will you tell me about your world? I'll do everything in my power to help you find a way home. Manibus' power is great. I can hear it whispering in my ear. I'm running out of breath. But I won't run. Not this time. I will stand with you and face it. The final War Stone has been awakened. Thank you. Next, we must secure. Thank you. Now, if I'll gather all my. By then, Eternaland and I will always. No matter how this ends.
What are you?
I don't think that I can do it. One day.
So the next question about the light effect. It's also very tricky. So although the idea came up in probably 20 years ago, but it's about 10 or 11 years ago when we had a large development and some named the by nature by the method of the year that is like the image. Okay. So it's called light speed spectroscopy. Apparently uses something great. And let's see how that will great. Light speed spectroscopy is a different setup and its concept that was compared to the normal microscope or fluorescent microscope. And the system setup would look much different than a normal microscope. Usually in a fluorescent microscope or even in focal or
We're so close to securing
you'll
Manibus.
see a general
I'm
setup.
sorry.
But in light speed microscopy, Minecraft, my
At the last moment, it
especially
escaped
in
into another
the
world.
first generation of Legend Minecraft, microscope. We don't really see this kind of
Where still, at the
microscope
very
setup.
moment it fled,
They kind
I
of
saw 12
enclose
abominations,
everything in box.
each
That's
as
because
powerful
the
as
editing way of
Medibus.
entry is much different too.
They're scattered across various worlds.
And how the like
To
regarding how
find your way
the
home, you must
the
venture
lights
to those
back
worlds and
to
secure them all.
so the lights in Minecraft they use this in different parts
I trust your
than
decision.
all of other
Eternaland and I will always be.
or just
If you decide to embark on this journey,
uh,
remember that
but it has
Eternaland
a
will
blend
always offer you
called
safe harbor.
cylindrical. Well, do we
Everything you
understand
bring
what
back
we're
will help this island grow together with you. This place is safe, stable, and yours alone.
Well, they are usually
Eternaland's
what are
doors
the
will always be open to you. You
in terms
are
of
its
shape.
sole master. Beyond these doors lie many different
So
worlds,
the lenses that
some
we
flow like dreams,
that
venturing to each
try
world. I have another friend.
what kind of lenses
V is my.
they're normally they're spherical means that the shape of the surface like are spherical. But of course there are aspects that combine. Usually they are used for the following things. Like, and I have to use the abstract. The abstract lenses means that they're not spherical, they're like polygon shape. And they're not as deep as like surfaces. Usually still they're not they're like specific application. That's Blender Blend is a whole different type. They can, as you can see, reduce their shape quite. They're like parts of a cylinder. Okay, part of a cylinder, not a full cylinder. They're like cut this in half or not a little bit less than half. So they're part of a cylinder, and this can actually in one direction. This direction. Both. Can we imagine? So in this direction, they are going to be able to go. But in this direction, they're not going to be able to go. That means we can actually create like a sheet of rather than a very small one. We focus in all directions. It's going to reach a point, right? If we only focus on one direction, the other direction is totally flat, not focusing, well, theoretically we would call it a line of light. But if our focus is not that place, we can actually roughly see this as a little this is like so the interesting idea is that for excitation light would be the speed of thought. So sample the sheet to go through it, and then at a perpendicular direction, we detect it. It's totally different. Previously, light comes in and light comes out
Let's set up a territory.
in one direction. Okay, but over here, we use perpendicular illumination and illuminate these sheets and let the signal as the so this is great. Right here is a setup for excitation. So this is all the structure out, but in anyway, train by using the vertical lens as one point of the illumination path. And this is the detective objective, detective work. And this also shows the setup. Here is an objective, and the lens trace light right here. Compared to Epsilon, the sight over here and right here is the same. We use the zebra fish. So sometimes the illumination is going to be on both sides because if you use one side to illuminate light path, the light ray over there is not going to be very balanced. It's going to be brighter on the left side and
Nice work.
dark
We
on the
better
right
gather
side.
some
That's
ore
both
and logs.
for example. So a lot of applications to these to excite the sample, not at the same time. But it's very hard to align the well. So actually they need like sequential illumination. Light up, then they light up, and afterwards when they acquire all the images, render re-render. So right here they illuminate with the sample here. They go at the detection view, and the good thing is, well, when it compares to the active fluorescence top and detection, optical detection, the difference is that at this time, when only illuminates very thin flame, and we're only getting signals from that flame. So one good thing is that we actually did illuminate the other part of the same. Therefore, we don't have out of focus light. If we don't have out of focus light, that means at first we're getting the whole in focus light at a time, and don't have a on influence out of focus light comes through our image, so we get a better image. Second, we did light other parts up. A good thing is that we don't consume the other parts of the floor. We don't have the corresponding photo bleaching or phototoxicity. So we can minimize, actually this is minimize the photo bleaching and phototoxicity damage out of light. Right here, the photo damage is going to be on the whole thing, no matter if you image it or not. The bad thing is, you did image the corresponding part, you still damage. The good thing is, we only image the part that we want, and we don't damage the other part. But we without damaging like this. Like my concept is going good on this. So again, this graph, a whole sample here represents we don't need section physically, and then we on the side, 90 we illuminate the sample and reflect it. And the whole plane
Nice.
will not
This
go
is a strong
dot
foundation for us to build upon.
with the point imaging modality. The whole plane can. So another advantage is that the system, Lightspeed system, is very compact and very cheap. So there are actually in those years when it's very popular, there were papers published on Nature to just show how to make a very cheap and compact light right.
Now that it's ready, use the equipment bench to make a weapon.
Of course, they use mirrors to close like path. But anyway, they can be quite. It's able to achieve sectioning, 3D imaging, and you will be able to use larger samples. And then, honestly, you can use quite large samples, and it only depends on whether you have taken. As I said, there's clearing techniques to make the sample very transparent. So you can have the light filtration process. Check the sample at a time. It's actually really easy at a time to explain the way you next step to another and it's and actually one of the tools that I published I have like and what I image really invested actually is dynamic process. I was imaging the conduction, meaning the electric solid using the embryonic part when still working. Okay, of course you have to image it when it's alive because that part does not have electricity. But there are ways that make my experiment easier, which is first I use like that means initially the part is contract, electrical through, right? And when the electrical signal excites the heart is contract. So there is something called the uncoupling. That means it can uncouple the excitation and contraction. That means the heart will still be excited, but it will not contract. It will be static. But how do I know that it gets excited? Well, from the slow resting signal. I know that it got excited, but it doesn't have a contraction because if it contracts, it's hard for me to image, right? Then I have the light and I can have first I have my sample prepared. I dye the part and I make use the UVM software to get not reading. And then, not physically reading, but still reading in electrical stuff. And then I put in my system. Now I put another laser, which is infrared laser. I go use that laser, I can pulse the part. That means when I have light go in, the signal is in. Okay, so if I don't stop the contraction of the part, when the light go in, it will contract. Light go in, contract. Light go in, contract. This is called optical casing. Light takes the heart. But now, since I have uncoupled the excitation and contraction, when I have light to case the heart, it's still okay. It's supposed to contract, but then it's uncoupled, so it's not contract. And this way, and now I select to image the heart. I image one plane. I make it contract. I case the heart, and I image one plane. And then I move to the next plane. I'm still casing, and I take a few cycles apart, and then I move to the next plane. And while I image contract, but then not contract, it's casing. And afterwards, I in my system I finally time the when the images were taken and together with the casing frequency, and then I can reconstruct a three-dimensional or not four-dimensional image showing how the heart, how the electric signal is going through the heart in three dimensions. So it's an XYZ the four-dimensional image. But because I cannot image so fast, require that at once. So I use some trick to together with light sheet microscopy to finish my volume for four-dimensional signal rig. So there are different the different standards of light sheet microscopy, including local speed, local like fast, and very so at like for several years around that time, it was really hot. Any like sheet papers that have lots of beautiful papers can be published on Nature publication. Well, there's Nature and there's method. So anything that's quite beautiful that can be published. But because I was close to my graduation, so I want to kind of wrap up and get publish that and then graduate. So I did accumulate lots of data to try to publish on high impact journals. I have quickly published on the journal published that. Okay, this is also a system of light sheet, and it has multiple lasers to excite structures, and then they have these paths that you can illuminate both sides and the separated light that's clear so that fire the multiple colors at the same time. Well, there are ways to try to get better images at night. Actually, the one I just talked about is called Project Spin. Is to create the plane by using a floating plane and spinning them at the time. Well, afterwards, what people were trying to do is they make a Photoshop. They don't use use the fillings and blends anything. So what they use is they fill with use normal turbulence and create this uh like line post or point post and then they scan it in one direction very fast. And this way they create a virtual place or a virtual understandable like use the line and it creates virtual. And people have tried to use the different ways of generating the line. Right here is a photon excitation of light element. Element is in light. So this is ESLF. This is two photon excitation and they photon. We know what this is called. Two photon excitation and right here is photon excitation specialty. So specialty is another type of beam that Gaussian. So Gaussian beam is what is generally happening in our application. But we need some tricks to create specialty. In specialty, they can get a very long in focus range so that your beam more will be thinner on the edges. So for Gaussian beams, you're thinner on the center and wider on the edges. To solve that problem, they use the vector. But for vector beams, the problem that it may happen, like outer range that has lower edges. So we have to, there's a trade-off. The efficiency is much lower. So, on the uniform way, you of your sheet can consider that. And then there's ivory beam. Ivory beam is another type of beam. Actually, it's a beam that has distortion on the shape. However, if you only use part of the beam, it can actually focus quite well. So there are so many variations on the beam side, and there are so many variations on the top set of the stage action. So there were so many papers, and you can actually acquire very good tools. All of these are the what was image was like. This is a mouse ring again. They have probably up to for light. Otherwise, no light. And this is another like setup. As we can see, it's not large to start with, and as you know, we have the recipe, published in the recipe. And these are the different shapes. The top row is the Gaussian beam, as we can see. It's more, there's more length, so it's just high. And the problem is that it's thinner in the middle, wider on the side, and generally the beam is thicker. But in the middle, this is a vessel beam. It has very long and thin and uniform beams in the center, but as you can see on the side. So there is a trade-off there. The general intensity and this is another kind of variation of it's called it's created by Eric Fessig. Eric Fessig is one of the Nobel Prize. So he actually also come into the field, try to solve the problem in lecture microwave. And he actually did. This is called lecture flight. The lecture flight and much more uniform than the vessel beam and the Gaussian. A little wider than the vessel beam, but it doesn't have so this is a paper that they published on very small events that they have captured. This is a rolling cancer cell, also rolling cancer cells called Sigmor cells. Love it. And also little part So yes. And these are the strong spinal. They have several colors. And these are so with the light microscopy, what it feels is that because it can minimize the light that we see. So it has a very small amount of light bleach, total bleaching, bleach, so you can actually follow the event live biological tissue for very long. This is a large benefit. Okay, so well, I think we use a little bit of time to talk about different resolutions. So the work that I showed here actually was from Aristotle experts, and Aristotle together with Stephen Kell and with Brennan Warner, they shelved the Nobel Prize for for the development of crystal storage. It's very interesting that they actually what they have developed kind of like a physics tool, and they have solved the problem in physiology, but they have got a word in chemistry. So actually, these are quite linked, and there's a reason that they can get the Nobel Prize in chemistry. So first is there are actually a lot of things that need to be awarded in physics and physiology, but there has to be too much things going on in chemistry, so usually it's a little harder to get the chemistry to kind of get it work. So if anything is related to chemistry, maybe the word chemistry. And actually, it's related. Um, the super resolution microscopy, although it looks like a physics topic on microscope, but actually it cannot be realized. It cannot come true if there is no fellow done. Um, so they actually have taken advantage of the guide that they have invented that is chemistry. And why did they have person to share the crime? Well, first there are different types of differential microscopes. Um, that's why they actually they are working different types of the microscope. So they have to have multiple size. I feel like the William one. I feel like I didn't after the size, but everything is just they are so accurate, so in super and images. Even
adaptations,
so
but the full
as
extent of
an
what they
example,
can do remains unknown. Here
every
at the Rosetta Corporation, we are
well,
charting a
has
new
actually
future for the human
I
race,
have
and we
I've
know
known
that
some
grasping the power of Stardust is an essential part of that.
that
So if
they
you believe that
actually
you or someone you know might be a
like a lot.
metahuman, reach out to the Rosetta Corporation as soon as you can. Because if you are a metahuman,
We
then
have
our team
collaborated
of scientists and researchers will stop at nothing to understand and unlock your full potential.
So good. Yeah, I have that so the and I what for most of the have to. So okay. So what are people that so pretty interesting and actually concept of and where does the red where does the limit come from? Why is there a red limit? Or in any type of adapt? camera, telescope, microscope, they all have resolution. That's not what's called diffraction. Right? Optical diffraction. So there is a limitation on how large of a point can be imaged, and that's usually related to the size of the like in telescopes. I in the photograph telescope, we have said that the resolution of the telescope is higher than the size of the for optics and for other depend on the aperture itself. And we have a much bigger aperture size. We have higher angular resolution. Well, for microscopes, usually the size is kind of set. The objectives are set. Or they don't make an objective that large. Well, and there's also a problem with that. Like if you make an objective that large, usually cannot hold steering, right? And that's a problem. That's a problem. So anyway, you cannot reach a very high resolution with your microscope. Very good because of the iridation size. Okay, what about super resolution? Super resolution is also the same that it must have like go beyond the diffraction limit, kind of create a resolution that's higher than the limit. So how do they do that? They're arbitrary. They're not breaking the diffraction limit. They are breaking the diffraction limit using. So one method is called STEP. Simulate this emission a point spread function. So I think this was developed by Eric Beck. So what they do is, initially, you have the irises as excitation point, right? The point spread function is like this, it's not going to be small, and therefore you won't be able to get the iris function. What he did is he has created a light box as a donut shape using a depletion or laser different flare. And this laser together with this, the the overlap graph is like this. But what this donut do is to perform as an eraser to erase the excitation line like so. That's why it's called a point spread function engineering method. It has used this depletion laser to cover it up, erase the size of the excitation response, therefore to make a much smaller point spread function, a much smaller function. And this way we can trace the frequency. So the idea is not that difficult. It's just like you can raise this like it off, but then you need to have the corresponding lasers, corresponding dye work with. That's why they have red. And it looks like this. It covers this up. And well, one thing to mention is that the super resolution microscope cannot be used on, so their application is much narrower than people. Only a small amount of things that adapt to the dye and the laser can be used in super. So before you can move on to check whether your application fits into the branch that was. So this is that. And as you can see, the excitation light is like this, which has generally not small size, but leaf laser is donut shaped and larger than this. But the effective point spread function is only like corresponds to and this is calculated on paper how the point spread function is. And comparison on Google. Well, Google is already high resolution, good image quality. So compared to dead, as we can see, it's much better. And the differences can be two or three times, two or three folds. Like if we have a very good composable system, the resolution of that will be about 120 nanometers. The resolution smallest point, 120 nanometers. That's already quite high. It has already used like software engineering to try to minimize the dot. Because if we use optical theory diffraction when it's calculated, it's about 200 nanometers. So 120 is already different because of the image cost. But then the STED can reach a resolution about 50 nanometers, like two times increase. Well, they claim they can do 30, but when we use it and we feel like well, and there's another method called Scrum. Uh, it's a technique that based on reconstruction. So it's a whole different idea than that. So what it does is, for example, we have multiple point spread functions laid on top of each other, and if they are separated, they can be resolved. If they separated the linear length, they can still be resolved. But if they're close by, they are not able to. Well, the idea is that, well, because everything here are plotted together, not in differentiated. But if at a time only the left particle gets light up, and the next time point, the right particle light up. This way, we can separate them. So this is not this method really. It doesn't separate the points in space. It separates them in time. And although we get a big spot at time one and a big spot at time two, but it doesn't actually indicate the size anymore. It indicates a location, and that information can be minimized into a much smaller spot. Okay, I haven't personally, I haven't finished it, but I only know I don't only know the theory of it, the trick of it. So other than the said, it's kind of minimizing the spot thing. It's actually does it in time. So there are totally different methods that work as let's look at this video to show um, to show the print. Okay, at time one, what they have to light up and get reported. And time two, they light up and get more reported. Time three, light up another group and they get reported. Time four, another group lights up and they get reported. And gradually, you can actually fill the gaps and get everything right. Very I think that shows several different examples. And this overview, then looking at them. Okay, so very interesting way of thinking. Okay. But I mean for Zed and for Storm, it both of them are not that difficult to think of, but there are actually a lot of things related to it. You have to know that something can be done. If you don't have enough background in the field, then actually you would not be able to figure out the well, these are the examples. I still don't know how many students we have. Thankfully, it looks like we may only have two, but not all has provided information, so we will and next time we will have a quiz before some students have to want to do that thing, right? And also we have already finished all of that. We only have one thing left. Well, we have two things left. I don't know if we can cover it all. We have reciprocity, and we have agnostic also. We'll see how much we cover, but the majority of the knowledge that I want to do in this class has finished. So next week we will have a quiz and have some presentation. The week after next week we will have some, and afterwards we I will give the lecture. Okay. Okay. So I sent the image in the group to say that. Sorry. No one has responded in group, so I said if they cannot, if it's not here, they can ask you guys to deliver that information. So please, if you receive any messages, so they can do that as well, but no one has responded. So if you have friends that still want to give a presentation and finish this class, they should